Peter saw the crocodile while he was walking in the forest. Suddenly he had a clever idea to imitate the ticking sound and trick Hook. With this trick, Peter quietly climbed onto the ship. He saw the pirates, who were scared and had turned pale. He signaled to the boys to stay quiet. At that moment, he saw the sailor staring at the sails. Peter struck the sailor, and John covered the sailor's mouth with both hands so he wouldn't make a sound. Suddenly, footsteps were heard. Peter quickly hid in the cabin. One of the pirates came to the cabin door and said,
"Captain, there's no sound from him. It looks like he just ran away now."
Hook listened carefully. He was upset that the boys had seen his fear. He wanted to take revenge. That's why he shouted and said,
"Boys, it's not a bad idea to gently and carefully pet my cat first. Then, before you proceed, walk the plank."
Captain Hook's cat was a wild creature. As soon as the boys heard the name of the cat, they trembled with fear. Hook signaled to one of the pirates to bring the cat. The boys stared at each other in terror. At that moment, a terrifying sound came from the cabin. The pirate who had gone after the cat jumped onto the deck.
"Captain, there's a terrifying sound coming from the cabin."
The boys looked at each other happily and giggled quietly. Hook rubbed his hook together several times. He ordered another one of the pirates.
"Go see what's in the cabin."
The pirate, trembling with fear, went into the cabin. A few minutes later, the pirate came back screaming and shouting. Hook shouted,
"I've gathered a bunch of cowards around me."
Captain Hook ordered another one to go and bring out whoever was hiding in the cabin, but no one volunteered. Slightly said with a laugh,
"What a bunch of cowardly pirates!"
Hook shouted angrily. Captain Hook grabbed a lantern and set off. Slightly said slowly,
Now Peter Pan will teach him a lesson.
A few minutes later, Hook staggered out, looking disoriented and exhausted.
Something mysterious blew out the lantern's flame."
The pirates were really scared. One of them looked at Hook and said,
They say if there's something more than the ship's capacity on board, the ship becomes cursed.
Suddenly a voice from inside the cabin said, "The ship is cursed." Hook glanced at the boys. An idea came to his mind. He ordered the boys to be locked up in the cabin. The boys pretended to be afraid of the stranger in the cabin. When the pirates saw the boys' fear, they shoved them into the cabin more quickly and shut the door. Hook and the pirates fell silent. They were waiting for the terrifying creature in the cabin to deal with the boys. Wendy, who was still tied to the mast, was waiting for Peter to do something. As soon as Peter saw the boys, he quickly untied their hands and feet. Then each of the boys grabbed a stick or club from the cabin and tiptoed out. At Peter's command, everyone hid. Peter made his way to Wendy. He quietly untied Wendy's hands. He whispered in Wendy's ear to quickly hide among the boys. Wendy quickly hid among the boys. Peter put on Wendy's cloak and stood by the mast in her place. The pirates thought the boys had been defeated in the cabin. One of the pirates said, "I think we should destroy this brat again because of his girl." The other pirates agreed with their friend. As the pirates approached the mast, Peter took off the cloak from his shoulders. He quickly threw the heavy cloak aside, and then loudly shouted out,
"Peter Pan, the legendary hero, enters now!"
Hook opened his mouth to say something. With hesitation, he ordered Buck to start the fight. The pirates approached Peter with fear. Although the pirates were strong in hand-to-hand combat, they were no match for Peter. When the boys saw that Peter was fighting, they came out of their hiding place. With Peter Pan's help, the boys threw several of the pirates into the sea. Some of the pirates, out of fear, hid in a corner. A few of the boys surrounded Hook. Hook fought alone and broke through the circle of boys. Suddenly, Peter shouted, "Hook is mine!" Peter stood face to face with Hook. The boys pulled back. Hook and Peter locked eyes. Without a word, the fight began. Peter was an exceptional swordsman. He quickly parried Hook's blows. He had only one weakness. He was smaller than Hook, but much smarter than him. Several times, Hook tried to attack Peter with his iron hook, but each time Peter dodged, and the hook slashed aimlessly through the air. At that moment, Peter thrust his sword between Hook's ribs. Hook's sword fell from his hand. Chivalrously, Peter allowed Hook to pick up his sword. Hook became sad. He grabbed his sword angrily and shouted, "I won't let you live!" Hook had lost his mind. He staggered across the deck. Peter flew over his head, flapping his wings. Hook jumped onto the ship's railing. He pointed his dagger at Peter. Peter flew and threw Captain Hook into the sea, right where the crocodile was waiting for him. Slightly shouted, "Ha ha ha! That's the end of Captain Hook, ha ha ha!" Wendy happily cheered for Peter. Then she took the children to the cabin. Wendy pointed to the big clock on the wall and said it was past their bedtime. All the children slept on the ship except for Peter, who was walking on the deck. The children knew a great sea voyage awaited them. Sailor Toodles was steering the ship through the heart of the sea. Peter was standing by the ship's wheel, keeping an eye on everything. Everyone had faith in Peter. They knew that by following his orders, they would reach their destination safely. Now it's time to hear from Mr. and Mrs. Darling to find out what happened to them after the children left. Mr. and Mrs. Darling never left the house at night again. After the children left, Mr. Darling constantly blamed himself and said he had underestimated the nanny. Mrs. Darling too sat sadly by the window every day, waiting for the children to return. One night, as it was snowing, Mrs. Darling said to the nanny,
"I dreamed that the children came back."
The nanny looked at Mrs. Darling with tearful eyes. When Mr. Darling came home, the two of them sat together. They talked about the happy days of the past, the days when the sound of the children's laughter filled the house. Mrs. Darling took a blanket and wrapped it around herself. Mr. Darling wanted to close the window, but Mrs. Darling wouldn't let him and said,
"The windows must stay open until the children return."
Tinker Bell and Peter arrived home before the other children. Peter wanted to close the window so that Wendy, seeing the window closed, would always stay with them. When they reached the window, they heard a beautiful melody. Tinker Bell said to Peter,
"What a beautiful melody."
Peter replied,
"Wendy's mother plays the piano very well, but she's not as kind and lovely as my mother."
Peter didn't know anything about his mother. He just wanted to say something, so he muttered under his breath, "Wendy won't come back because the window is closed." Suddenly the music stopped. Peter peeked out the window. Mrs. Darling had laid her head on the piano and was crying. He felt that resisting Mrs. Darling's love for her children was impossible, so he left the window open and went away. In the middle of the night, Wendy, John, and Michael returned home. John looked around in surprise and said,
"I think I've been here before."
Wendy quickly said,
"Of course you have. This is our home."
John shouted,
"It really is! It really is!"
John looked inside the house through the window and quietly said,
"Oh no, who's that mysterious man? Is that really our father?"
Michael rushed over to see their father. Wendy was sad that John had forgotten their past life. She looked for their mother, wondering if maybe their mother hadn't been waiting for them. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a piano. At first, the children decided to quietly go into the house and cover their mother's eyes, but they quickly changed their minds. The three of them went into their room and lay down on their beds, as if they had never left the room. Mrs. Darling heard noises coming from the children's room. She ran into the room. She looked around. Wendy, John, and Michael were lying in their places. She thought she was dreaming again. The same old dream. Quietly and hopelessly, she sat down on the chair by the fireplace. Wendy couldn't hold back and shouted, "Mother!" Mrs. Darling, as if speaking in a dream, whispered, "That's Wendy's voice." John and Michael also called out for their mother. Mrs. Darling wiped away her tears and said, "John, Michael, I wish you were here." The children got up from the bed and jumped into their mother's arms. The commotion brought Mr. Darling and the nurse into the room. The excited nurse noticed a strange little boy looking into the room from behind the window. "Do you want to know what happened to the other boys?" "I'll tell you now." The boys were waiting for Wendy to help them when she had the chance. So they sat in a corner and waited for Wendy. But there was no sign of Wendy. The boys were worried. After a while, Wendy told her mother about the boys. Mrs. Darling had no problem taking care of the boys, but Mr. Darling wasn't very pleased. He thought the house wasn't big enough for so many boys. Michael said they wouldn't take up much space. "They'll sleep in the bed next to us." Mr. Darling finally agreed. Wendy ran after the boys. Very soon, Wendy returned home with the boys. Mr. Darling welcomed the boys warmly. Peter had been standing by the window the whole time, watching the big Darling family. Wendy noticed Peter. "Peter, I'm going to miss you. Mrs. Darling, who never took her eyes off her children for a moment, saw Wendy standing by the window, went over to her, and asked, "Who were you talking to?" Wendy told her mother about Peter. Mrs. Darling stuck her head out the window and said, "Hello, Peter, where are you?" Peter flew over and sat on the window ledge. Mrs. Darling said kindly, "Peter, if you want, you can live with us too." Peter replied seriously, "Thank you. I don't want to go to school and grow up." Mrs. Darling opened her arms to hug Peter, but Peter didn't move forward, and he said, "I want to go back with Tinker Bell and live in the house we built for Wendy." "Wendy, are you sure you don't want to come with us?" Wendy took her mother's hand and said, "Peter, I'll miss you, but I don't want to leave my family." Peter, sad and upset, flew and stood in the sky. Suddenly Mrs. Darling said, "An idea just came to me. How about every year, in the last week, you come for Wendy and take her to Neverland?" Peter happily agreed. He waved to Wendy and her mother and flew away. The boys went to school and everything quickly returned to normal. On the first nights, the nurse would tie the boys' legs to the bed so they wouldn't run away. But it didn't take long for her to realize that the children no longer believed in flying. The children thought that only birds could fly. They couldn't imagine themselves flying. The reason was clear: the children no longer believed in dreams. A week before New Year's, Peter came for Wendy. Wendy flew with Peter among the trees of the land of dreams, but she could no longer soar at the height of flight. Wendy wanted to remind him of old memories, but Peter didn't remember anything. He didn't even remember Hook. Wendy tidied and cleaned the little house and returned home. The following year there was no news from Peter. Michael said, "Maybe he's gotten sick, or maybe such a person never existed at all." A year later, Peter showed up. Strangely, he didn't know he had lost a whole year. That year was the last time Wendy and Peter saw each other. Years came and went. The boys grew up. As long as children are happy and innocent, this story will go on.